What's up, y'all? Happy Friday Eve to you. Today's Thursday, June 6, 2019. You know what time it is. It's time to reflect. One of the things that we learn in childhood is that we learn a lot of games. All the anxiety, the fun anxiety that comes from it, all the laughter and the running around, the good exercise. It's all included in that playing games. We all know how to play hide and go seek. One of my favorites was playing What Time Is It, Mr. Fox, as I hung out with one of my sisters and my cousin at my great Aunt Edie's house in Montclair, New Jersey. But another game that we learn in childhood and that we unfortunately take into our adult lives is the blame game. Yeah, that blame game is something else. I often have to catch myself and I have to make sure that I'm not playing the blame game. One of the things that I do is that I often will hide things if people are coming over, or even if I'm going and staying at a hotel, I'll hide something that is perhaps of value. So maybe if housekeeping comes in, they can't find it. And then what happens is that then I can't find it myself. And then I may end up blaming someone else. That happened to me recently when I got home and I needed to take a hat off of my wall, because that's where I have a lot of my hats hung on the wall. And I needed to take it off of this set design that we often use for some projects and filming and take it to another set location. And then when I got back home, I looked at the wall and I was staring at it and I was like, something is missing here. And as I sat there or stood there and I was drinking my water and I kept on looking around at everything, what could possibly be missing? And then finally I said, oh my goodness, a hat is missing. One of my hats. One of my neighbors got a key to my house and they came in and took my hat. Or somebody came in and took my hat. And then I had to practice the pause. And I had to realize that I was the one that took the hat. And then what I did, before I even realized who took the hat, I grabbed another hat that was not mine, but that was my friend's, and I put it on the wall. Because I said, somebody took my hat, but let me just go ahead and put this hat somewhere. Now, you obviously know that I was tired, because clearly, if I would have just thought, I would have realized that I took the hat. But here's the thing. I was so quick to play the blame game. I was so quick not only to play the blame game and realize, and not or fail to realize, that I was the culprit. I was the one who moved the hat. But then I replaced it with something that didn't belong to me, something that didn't fit, something that was not supposed to be there. And that's what we do. When we play the blame game, all of a sudden things that should not be in our lives, things that should not take up root or take up residence in certain areas of our lives, things that don't belong to us, we end up replacing what should be with something that should not be. Yeah, Genesis chapter 3. God asked Adam, I almost forgot that brother's name, he caused so much trouble. God asked Adam, wait a minute, what are you eating? Well, first of all, he said, are you naked? What? I know you're naked, but who told you that you were naked? But he's saying, I didn't tell you that you were naked. Why? Before you were naked and unashamed, now you're naked and ashamed. That's beside the point. But he said to Adam, he said, what are you eating? He said, where did you get that from? He said, wait a minute. God speaking to Adam, are you eating from the tree that I told you not to eat from? Here's Adam. Well, the woman that you gave me, she ate of the tree and gave some to me. Blame number one. God asked Eve. He said, wait a minute, what happened here? What is going on? Eve said, well, the serpent deceived me. Blame number two. But that is something that, listen, if you play that blame game, yes, you learned it in childhood, but listen, we can go all the way back to Adam and Eve playing that game. Yeah, but part of getting ourselves out of that posture and out of that mindset of always blaming other people for our issues. Paul stood in front of King Agrippa and said, I consider myself fortunate to stand before you to deal with my stuff. I'm glad I can do it. I think myself happy. I consider myself fortunate to stand here to address my issues. But one of the things that will cause us to get out of that realm, to get out of that zone, to get out of that mindset of playing the blame game is knowing your pattern. Part of my pattern, if you listen to me for a while, you know that I practice the pause. You know that I believe in pattern. It is biblical. Exodus 25, God told Moses, build the tabernacle according to the pattern that I show you. So part of my pattern, so that I don't always fall into that trap, always deal with or bring that childhood issue, that childhood game into my adult life, because what worked in childhood is not going to work in adulthood. Yeah, you remember when those grown men had to be circumcised. Oh yeah, see, that's what happens when we have an issue that should be taken care of at childhood and we bring it into adulthood, because now you have a childhood issue that is now tormenting you in your adult life. And part of what I do, I make sure that I practice the pause and I know my pattern. Yeah, I know my pattern so that I don't blame other people. I know my pattern. I practice the pause before I blame others. I look at myself. The Bible says that it's not the things that are outside of a man that defile him, but it's the things that are on the inside. So before I start pointing fingers at you, I'm going to say this, like the disciples said, Lord, is it I? Yeah, so who took my hat? I took my hat. Yeah, who stole your shoe? No, the dog didn't do it, yo. You just messy. You need to have a specific place for your shoes. It wasn't the deacons. It's not the pastors. It's not the trustee. It's not your family. It's not your wife. It's not your husband. It's not your kids. It's not your boss. It's you. Stop playing the blame game. Now listen, sometimes there are other factors that attribute to some of the things that you're going through. That is true. But ultimately, it has to fall back on you. Because they may have attributed to some of the things that you've gone through in life. But when you take it back, you put ownership on you. Yeah. Stop playing the blame game. It'll literally lead to a road of unforgiveness, a road of torment, a road of anger. And none of those represent the fruits of the Spirit. So listen, who took my hat? I took my hat. Yeah, I ain't shoot the sheriff. My gosh. Neither did I shoot the deputy. I don't even know that song, but listen, you know what I'm saying. Hopefully this blesses you as you go into this awesome weekend. What happened this week? Who knows? Everything wasn't your fault, but some of that stuff was your fault. And even if it wasn't your fault, deal with it. Yeah, come on, Adam, stop blaming Eve. Come on, Eve, stop blaming the serpent. God didn't tell you that you was naked. Hello, happy birthday. He didn't tell you that you were naked. So why all of a sudden are you listening to another voice? Same thing in your life. Same thing in your life. Stop blaming others. Your pattern should be listening to God and doing what God said. You know your pattern. Don't listen to anything else except for what God said. Because if you listen to what God said, and if that is your pattern is to practice the pause, operate with that spirit of discernment. You're not ignorant of the enemy's devices. Hello, come on now. You already know. You know his tactics. And if your pattern is to practice the pause so you can discern, for the enemy is like a roaring lion seeking to devour its prey. If I am walking in discernment, and if I have the spirit of discernment on my life, I don't have time, nor is it anywhere near my pattern to blame you or anybody else for the things that are around me and for what I go through. I took my own hat. Now, I gotta make sure I take it out the car and put it back on the wall. Bless the Lord. Have a wonderful weekend. Share this with somebody. Bless them. Love you guys. Peace.